Do you guys mind if we pray? Thank you, Holy Spirit, so much for filling this room, and thank you for a pause in our night, and a pause in our day, a pause in our week, a pause in our month to be together. We love that you're participating, God, and we thank you so much for that. So have your way with us, open our hearts and our minds, and just distribute wisdom tonight, God. We pray these things in your name. Amen. Amen. Thanks, you guys, for coming. I'm really happy to be with you again. It's felt kind of like a long time. I don't know why. When's the last time we did a workshop? Would you say? Oh. It's like, well, you do them once a month. So.
You're always game, huh, Patricia?
I know, she's so good in the room.
But you did stop for a while because of your... No, we did the 6
Oh,
weeks,
that's what it is, because we did the 6 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we're going to work together tonight on a concept, an intensive, a heart culture intensive, that kind of weaves in and out of all the things we do here at the center. Just for those of you who are maybe meeting me for the first time, my name's Felicia Durling. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Life Change. We're a nonprofit drug and alcohol treatment center, but we also, we could be thinking chairs if needed.
Yes, I was...
We also have another part of our company called Heart Culture, and Heart Culture is our community workshop where it kind of takes the model of how we do what we do. In essence, how we do what we do, we distribute that throughout the community. Hi, everybody. And you're sitting in a heart culture workshop, so you're kind of getting the back end of how we do what we do. And heart culture is a way to live. So we create intensives, we have workshops, we have individual coaching, we have coaches all around the nation, and we have a life coaching course that we offer. Tonight we are without PowerPoint, and we are without webinar per my request. I really felt with this one that I wanted to be free from all the technology distractions. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to be able to webinar everything that we're doing, but you'd be surprised how you feel that. And it's December, it's the end of the year. We've been working really hard with Heart Culture and distributing this message nationally. And tonight I thought I just want to be in the room and be really present with you. There's something about this curriculum that caught my attention, and I just felt like we needed to keep it in the room. So there were people, in other places, but Ridge, my son, is recording it.
Hi, everyone.
We're so happy to have him. Ridge is actually one of our staff members now at the center, and he's here in the evenings working with Allie and working with Kiara. Where's Kiara? Working with Allie and Kiara. So he's also a big support to myself and Andrea with Heart Culture, and he captures everything that we're doing. So our idea more tonight was, they can get it more via getting it taped rather than a live stream. But in the future, we plan to live stream everything. Sometimes we'll go around and introduce. I think I'm going to get right into the curriculum. Mm-hmm. Most of you know each other. If you have more questions about who we are and what we do, please don't hesitate to find myself or Andrea. There's a lot of people in the room. Kristen, Jody, and Bob. There's a lot of people here who are on our team. Carol and Chuck in the back, and Pat's been around a really long time. There's a lot of people that you're sitting next to that you're blessed by, just to let you know. I was at Christian Business Partners with my friend, and I said, this is just, when you come to a Heart Culture meeting or you come to the center, you're going to be next to people that are, I think, the most amazing people in our community. So get to know the people next to you. So that's it with that. We're going to talk about something pretty powerful, and it's going to be really interactive and very casual setting. We offer, for those of you who don't know, an intensive, we call it a coaching course. It's a leadership coaching course. Can you raise your hand if you've participated in the leading? Yeah, so a lot of you have participated in our coaching course, and a lot of you have done it a couple times. Truth and Mercy is a piece of that. So our monthly intensives have been pulling out and extracting one piece of our larger intensive course to just better support you and to give more information, more support, more understanding, more skill so that you can do some things. And what we're looking for you to be able to do is actually pretty powerful. We're looking for you to be able to impact your life in the way that God intended for you to be living. We're looking for you to find freedom. We're looking for you to find wholeness and restoration. We're looking for you to be able to stand next to other people and offer that. And I don't know about you, but I've needed a heck of a lot of training to know how to do that. I have needed communities and therapists and support groups and friends and colleagues. I've needed people next to me to help me learn how to be the most effective I can be in the community. I've had this calling, and maybe a lot of you have that, to stand next to people and help them journey through. But in order to do that, I really had to learn how to be the most effective. It wasn't something that came natural to me. What came natural to me was my story that I come from, all that trauma, all that madness, all that conflict. That's what came natural. So imagine all that story sitting right next to a calling. You following? Imagine having all that pain and all that history, but you have calling within you. Well, if I'm going to walk out my calling, I'm going to need to have some skills in order to do a couple things. I'm going to need to be able to heal. I'm going to need to be able to restore. And then I'm going to need to know how to be the most effective next to people. So we're going to talk tonight about one of those skills, one of many that we go over in terms of truth and mercy. So if you look at your handout really quick, we're going to read a couple things and then we'll interact a little bit. If you're interested in walking out a life in the balance of truth and mercy, it's going to give you, we're going to talk about you just for a minute and then we'll talk about you next to people, but it gives you the opportunity for growth. If you're going to live a life where you're looking at finding restoration for yourself or for your family, let's just do that right now. Truth and mercy is a component that actually then equals and gives you the opportunity to grow. If we don't have truth and if we don't have mercy, if we're not operating, and we're going to talk about what those are, but if we don't have those two elements running through our lives, I believe we don't have the opportunity for growth. It's the perfect example of how Christ walked. That's a mouthful if you try to say that. It's the perfect example of how Christ walked. He walked in the perfect, in the beautiful method of just as much truth as he did just as much mercy. And we're going to talk about why you can't have more of one than the other in just a minute. Truth and mercy is actually, I believe, a requirement for redemption. What comes to mind when I say the word redemption? If I'm standing next to you and I want to help you redeem, I'm standing next to Jody, and my whole goal in my relationship with her is to help redeem her. What does that mean? Seek out healing, seek out restoration.
To buy her back, to get her back.
Ooh, to get that girl back. You have people in your life that you want to get back. You want to get back whole. You want to get back healthy. You have areas in your life you want to redeem. Do you want to redeem your communication in your marriage? Do you want to redeem the old love that used to be there, maybe with someone that you care about? Do you want to redeem, do you want to take back what Satan stole? Yeah, I do. All day, every day. I'm on a mission in my own life. I want it all back, times 10. In order to do that, we have to, that's why this is such a key component, is we have to walk that story out, that redemption piece for growth with truth and mercy. Fine? Which offers us the magnitude of the offering, and I'll explain what that means. That kind of hit me yesterday. I want you to see in this moment, if you can open your heart up to an idea, that when you allow yourself to be redeemed, when you allow full redemption into your life. Does everybody know what I mean when I say redemption? Just getting all cleaned up. When you allow redemption into your life, or you allow redemption into other people's life, have you ever thought about what a beautiful offering that is to the Lord? saying any of that is easy. What we're going to talk about tonight is not easy. It's not easy to stand square in the middle of your full limits and your full compassion. I mean, you can think about Christ on the cross. I mean, that's full truth and full mercy, right? A full life given to cover us with the full truth that resurrection's on its way. I mean, that's the complete middle ground of truth and mercy. Everything he is offers that. When we offer that, it's like incense. I mean, are you following where I'm going? When we offer redemption into people's lives, to the magnitude we're going to talk about tonight, it's like incense. Because it actually gives the opportunity for a miracle. You getting there? You getting there a little bit? You getting there on what it's like to stand in offerings? Let's just talk about someone else, not even us for a moment. When you offer them the opportunity to heal, the opportunity to restore, that's mercy. Unmerited, right? Not for any reason. But you give them the truth of who you are next to that. If you've walked that out, or if you are walking that out right now, if you have a relationship in your life that you're standing with someone and you're walking out your limits, this is who I am and who I'm not. Those are your limits. That's the truth. The truth is who I am and who I'm not. What I can do, what I can't do. Where I end and where I begin. Those are your truths. Right next to, I give way for a compassionate opportunity for a miracle. You see those two together? I give way for a compassionate opportunity for a miracle. Right next to, it's just who I am and who I'm not. That's the beautiful sweet spot of restoring life. We can, I believe, and I know this is maybe an audacious thing to say, I believe it can all be restored right there. I mean, it could all be restored on the cross, so why don't we get to do that now? I think that's exciting. Yeah, I think it's exciting. I think it's exciting for me that I have the opportunity with God to live that out. I'm so thankful for that, because it can be a mess. I mean, he has limits with me. He knows exactly what he wants from me. He's really clear on that. And then, man, this other part of him, which is just, my Savior. So, gosh, then we stand next to our family members offering that? See, we don't want, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, we just don't want more, we don't want one more than the other. We're going to talk about what it's like to be in the balance of that. Okay? That's kind of a little bit of the foundation of what we're going to do tonight. You want to read this next part?
The opportunity for growth, the requirement for redemption, the magnitude of the offering. Whenever God has intervened in human history to redeem us and to help us, he does it with three ingredients: grace, truth, and time. In fact, these three ingredients can be seen in the very nature of the person of Jesus and what he did for us. As John described him and what he did, he says the following: "The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and the only, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth." Henry Cloud.
Anybody familiar with Henry Cloud? He would be someone to get to know. He has a book out called Changes That Heal, and it's just a wonderful manual of sorts. Manual? Felt like I was saying, like, Emmanuel.
Put that too.
Yeah, did you hear that? I heard that. It's a wonderful kind of workbook of a book that is just a great starting point if you would like to be savvy and have skills surrounding your relationships. So he's someone that I follow, and this concept comes from him, and then Heart Culture has taken it and implemented it in terms of describing a way to live. So we believe that walking out a life of truth and mercy is actually just a declaration. It becomes who you are, and you become, if you take our coaching course and our leadership course, we really hone in and develop the fact that you actually have this insane opportunity in your homes, in your own life, in your relationships, and in your workplace, wherever you're at, to be when I say a leader, I know that sounds kind of cheesy, like, oh, we're all leaders. But kind of you're the manager. You know, if you're walking out a life of truth and mercy in all these areas of your life, you get the opportunity to change atmospheres wherever you go. You're the one who gets to be the one who disarms. You're the manager in your office who's the one who can disarm. You're the parent in the home that brings that can bring honor and communication and connection. You're the spouse who is leading the story. You're not the one that's just constantly flapping in the wind. You're the one that has authority to allow the opportunity for miracles to take place. So truth and mercy gives us that opportunity. So let's go through these: truth, mercy, and time. When I was writing I didn't anticipate talking about time, but then I realized there's no way around it. For those of you who have studied a little bit of this with us so far, the concept of time, we can't do either of them unless we put that component in, so we'll share that a little bit. So truth, it's our limits. Mercy, this came to me this week. Mercy is our reflection. So let's talk a little bit about that. Truth represents our limits. Give me some feedback on what that means to you.
What we can handle and what we can't.
Truth is what I can take in, maybe what I can hear, what I can tolerate. Truth is what I can tolerate and what I can't. That's a great way to...
My boundaries.
Our boundaries.
Where we feel safe. Where we feel safe. It's like a,
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, where we feel safe. It's our, maybe it's our identity. We all have different boundaries, different limits. What some people feel limited in, other people have no problem. I just had that conversation with my husband the other day. I would call it a conversation. He would call it a debate. And then we had another, what I would call conversation about the argument that I still call the conversation. To me, it's no harm, no foul. My quote is, this is normal. This is normal to be like this. And for him, very structured, lives this 24/7, does not want debates or arguments. He wants strategic conversation. I call what would look like a debate a free-for-all. I call that a conversation. I enjoy that sometimes. It's nice to be out of the model sometimes here and there. But to me, that's very comfortable. So we all have our different limits. I might be comfortable here, and my husband may not. And that's really a big part of heart culture, is really giving people the freedom to choose that. So the limit would be, let me say that different. I'd like to, would you be open to me sharing with you about who I am and who I'm not, what I can and can't do? It's not even I'm going to tell you. Now, something interesting happened here when I was creating the curriculum. I'm going to skip over just for a second. In parenting young children, I made a change, a model change, that I do believe in parenting young children that the model's a little bit different. I think it shifts about junior high or late elementary. But outside of young children, the model really exists to say, kind of like Andrea was saying, if you so choose, I'd like to share with you more about me. If you would not like to hear about my limits, that's okay too. And there's a subtlety there, and there's a I want you to hear this word, there's a vulnerability.
Yeah.
A tremendous vulnerability of offering my truth to you. Because then I'm going to allow you the dignity and the respect, and then you get to decide what you want to do with it. Andrea could have a family that says, like, that's funny, I could care less what you want. Like,
Yeah.
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 And there are cultures like that, there are homes like that. We're not here to say one's right or wrong. Maybe that mama doesn't care. And she wishes it was different, but it's like, whatever. But some of us are learning how to identify. Some of us are doing that really late in age. We didn't grow up in homes like that. I didn't watch that. I didn't watch this. anywhere distributed. But I knew it had to exist somewhere, and I was on a mission from a really young age to find this. I knew this to be true because of what I knew, because of who I knew God to be. You follow? The God I know operates beautifully like this, and I was on a mission to create home and environments like that. Whether it was in a treatment center, in my relationships with my friends, with my kids, you name it, I knew it, and it's right there for us. It's literally how Christ walked. His limits, who he was and who he wasn't. Does it ever get more clear? I mean, he just knew. He just knew who he was. He knew what he was going to do and what he wasn't going to do. I mean, I desire that. I want to know who I am and who I'm not, like the back of my hand. Every time I leave something like this, I'm a little bit of a better, plug your ears for a minute, I'm a little bit of a better mom when I go home. And I'm a little bit of a better wife for, a while, and then I gotta do another one and write something and then show myself back. But it's a community. We're really trying to create a community within one another so that we can better support each other. Because it's one thing to know it, it's another thing to be in community and be practicing and be able to talk about it and say, I've been practicing now, sharing who I am and who I'm not, and not requiring on the other end. So let's keep going. So mercy. This hit me out of the blue. For those of you who have attended a lot of our stuff, reflective listening, I'm not going to get into all that, but reflective listening is a tool that goes after the heart of the person. In communication, it's a way to listen that literally dives into the inner chamber of the heart that says, I want to know that you feel understood by me. That's reflective listening. So when we offer someone mercy, what do you think about that for a minute? When we stand next to someone and provide a platform for an unmerited, unnegotiated, full opportunity to restore, it's as if you've jumped into the depth of their heart and you understand now exactly where they're placed. So let me back up. So truth says to people, let me tell you who I am. Let me say that different. Truth says to people, would you be open to hearing who I am? That's important, and the nuances of that are very important. So truth says, would you be open to hearing about me? Mercy says, your heart and who you are in this story is just as valuable to me as the limits that I'm presenting to you. You hearing that?
Can you say that again?
I will try.
Let
Let me go back here. So truth says, would you be open to me sharing with you who I am and who I'm not? And mercy says, I want you to know that you are just as much a valuable person next to my limits. And I want to make sure that this relationship is a partnership. Just as much as I have a limit, next to my limit is me taking a bullet for you. Now, if you really think about that, that is not an easy thing to walk out. Because that means that you are positioning yourself as a parent, as a manager, as a son, as any role you've got, saying, I will clearly make sure I am safe, next to being vulnerable enough to let you know that you just as much matter to me as much as that limit standing next to you. You following? Yeah. That's why this is so intense. In the literal concept, when we're in relationships, it's a Christ relationship. I mean, sorry, there's just no way around that. It's who he was. He's just the guy that he will. God cannot move out of who he is. Who he is who he is. He can't deviate from that. God cannot deviate from being all good all the time, every minute. And he's willing to sacrifice everything. So as a team, as a community, we're exploring the idea together of what it's like to start offering that in our community. sometimes we have one more than the other. What I've already talked about is the sweet spot of balancing them both out. Just as much truth as you have mercy. It's gotta be balanced, because if it's not, things start to go a little sideways. We're gonna go through that a little bit.
Where is the mercy, where is the truth? I separate my mind even before going into the conflict, but then purposefully going for mercy first, which I find, even if I don't want to, because I really don't, I really just want to tell you my truth. Because I'm right. No, I'm not really. I'm right. But what I find is my heart changes as I go in for mercy.
And it disarms also.
Right. It disarms.
Well, it disarms the other person too.
So I'm always thinking mercy, truth. Mercy first.
So good.
There's a saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Exactly.
And
That's
that's
exactly
exactly it.
That's
right?
exactly.
That's, I think about that when I go to tell someone something, you know, let me assure them that first off, I care. I care so much, I'd like this to be different, because it's not working.
In order to do this work, Cloud talks about one of the main components being time.
Big.
We could talk 4 hours about time. What that means is, and I'm getting this word a lot lately, is just the vulnerability of these relationships when you're starting to, maybe you're just starting to share who you are and who you're not. Maybe you're just starting to recognize that you do have some limits. Some of us, that's natural. Some of us saw that growing up, but others of us, that can feel new. So to walk out who you are and who you're not, and also go after the heart of the person that you love. You hear both of those at the same time? We have to allow time to be a third contributor in that story. Otherwise it doesn't work, literally. It just doesn't work. Time gives us the opportunity to walk out the vulnerability. When we're that vulnerable, when we're going after hearts but also getting saved, do you follow that? When we're going after hearts but also making sure we're saved, that process, some of us are redoing processes over the last 20 years. Some of us are redoing processes from how we grew up. I mean, maybe we grew up in trauma and we've got conflict and different stories running through our head. You know, adult children of alcoholics, abuse, domestic violence, you name it. The things that some of us witnessed, abandonment, so many different things. So as we start to walk out this new life of limits with connection, we have to allow God the opportunity to cultivate it and seed it and water it and grow it. We've had a lot of families come through that will start to use this model right from the get-go, and a lot of people will say, this will never work in my home. You know, that's kind of the first, it's a little shocking. Some of our strategies will feel a little shocking when we're working with family dynamics and conflict. And we find that it always does. Because we throw in that third element of time. We say, we just started, give it some more time. When a mom comes home and starts saying different sentences, that can throw off the whole balance of the home. It could be a home that's been operating in patterns for 20 years. And all of a sudden mom comes home and says, you know what? Let me tell you a little bit about who I am and who I'm not. She's real confident. She says, but I want to tell you who I am and who I'm not, but let me tell you a little bit about what I'm going to need, you know, what I'm going to need. And but I want you to know I'm going to put all the issues aside because I really care about you. People will literally say, like, what? Yeah, what? We've experienced a lot in this room of families going, what? And then a couple weeks and a couple weeks and a couple months, and all of a sudden the atmosphere is shifting. All of a sudden the whole story is just starting to literally unfold in a different way, and that's time. You know, anything that, if I've learned anything about God, is this idea of He has the perfect timing. Just because I've got an idea of something I want to start implementing, it's what's His time? What's He going to do with my best try? You hear that? What's He going to do with just my best try? us walking out truth and mercy is really just our best try, it's our best foot forward in our humanity, but he's the one that will start to heal. Time, maybe that's it, maybe time gives us the opportunity to start to heal enough so that it can all take hold. You get that? Okay. Let's do a little bit of truth without mercy. Let me ask, so if you've got a little bit of the concept now of what truth looks like and what mercy looks like, let's do, tell me who you are. Are you more clear on your limits? Is that your platform? Are you the one who are you walking home saying, this is who I am, who I'm not? Does that come really easy to you? Or are you more the person who tends more towards compassion and understanding and grace? I want you to remember that word vulnerability. When we're operating, and that's kind of similar to what you were saying, Jody, even truth can be vulnerable and can be tender and kind. Even, and mercy can be, but I want you to think of that word vulnerability.
For mercy.
For all of it. For life. for your whole life. Just this idea of what it's like to tap into the risk of being vulnerable enough to stand in the middle of that. I'm going back to the word vulnerability for a moment because it sits underneath kindness. Why don't you think about that for a minute? Vulnerability sits underneath kindness because you may have stories in your life or situations in your life where to be kind might be difficult. You might have people in your life that, for some of you, there's been so much harm that to be kind doesn't match. It doesn't go with the limits you might have. And maybe in your spirituality you feel like, oh, well, we're all supposed to do that. But sometimes for some of us who are faced with some real painful stories, it's difficult. As much as maybe we want to, it's just difficult to do that. But what sits underneath kindness is vulnerability. See, when we're operating from a place of either truth or mercy or in the sweet spot in the middle, when we're vulnerable enough and we can take that risk to just be authentically connected to ourselves, kind of like you were saying, Kristen, to be connected to ourselves and then distribute that truth. There's no bait there. You follow? There's no bait in conflict when we're being vulnerable. It's risky because we don't know what's going to come in the other way. But it gives us the opportunity to really, first of all, step back and just get aware of what's happening with me. And then to step out and say, this is the truth of me. And the truth is I'm not okay over here, but I so want to hear your side. That's the balance. So I want you to kind of just take that word with you tonight and see how, I think what I'm getting with that word as I was really praying about this is, wasn't it vulnerable for Christ to go up and pray and everybody falls asleep? I mean, that's really what he was facing, the task he was facing, the vulnerability of what, they were limited, right? Those sweet 12, just so limited, those disciples, they just couldn't, I don't believe that wasn't their heart, but they were just limited. And the vulnerability of Christ with all that was before him and just laying it all out on the line for us and having people around him who just couldn't do what they wanted to do. It's just, we put ourselves out there to say, this is the truth of who I am. This is the truth of what I need. This is the truth of what I can't do anymore. Even having that conversation is providing love and mercy. See, when we're vulnerable, we're already loving. Follow that? When you're standing with someone in a conflict, vulnerable, you're offering mercy right there. Yeah. Vulnerability is your key to mercy. Yeah. I just think there hasn't been a tremendous amount of modeling there for us, because kind of like you were saying, being vulnerable can be very new and very unsafe. But I'm getting convinced in my age that it's a game changer. Let's do this. For those of you, when I say that word, for those of you who feel that, I mean, talk about that for a minute. We've got a little time. It's a word for tonight, just to let you know. It's what I feel. I feel it's a key.
Big time.
I feel it's the key. Vulnerability is the key. You can be a high-level executive and fully vulnerable, and have your entitled power in your vulnerability. Because you've got your limits right here. That's the sweet spot I'm talking about tonight. This is who I am and who I'm not, and I'm fully vulnerable. Because remember how I say this 100 times? This never goes away. These are our boundaries. I've always got my boundaries right here, but can I be vulnerable? Yeah. It's a game changer. These are my limits. It's really heavy, and I'm glad because it's important. Just know this is really heavy. If these are my limits, and I have these, I really do. I mean, I've got stories behind me, so I'm really limited. That's how I ended up because of all that back there. So I've got all these limits, but if I can live my life bringing these limits with me, but be so vulnerable in my relationships, or I can take these limits and just start hacking people with them. Can you picture that? Like, these are my limits, and I'm just throwing them around.
I think that's history.
That's
how my
history.
friends done. Yes.
But imagine if I am taking this with me, and I'm just saying, you know, this is, I'm aware of this.
Yes.
And I want to bring you into my life with these as well. These don't budge. These are my boundaries. These are the things that just have to happen for my life. Like Andrea said, they could be things about noise, or they could be looks in people's eyes. They could be anything. It could be what I need my home to feel like, what I need my office to produce. It could be anything. These are the things that have to happen in my life. And here's my heart. If I bring my heart there, I'm always at a win. You following? You guys following that? I'm going to be vulnerable. And when you come at me, then I'm not going to be able to do that. I'll be back in just a moment because I have a limit. But my heart stays open because I'm ready for the miracle with the one who comes at me. But my limits say, I'll be back. I'll be back. I'll be back. But the mercy says, I'm coming back. And for others, we'll be in different places where the concept for them in terms of implementing boundaries isn't even on their radar. So it might be more the implementation of mercy. I mean, each of you will have, this represents the sweet spot. Let's do a little bit of truth without mercy. So if I only have this, if I only have my limits, if I walk around with that, if I'm only distributing who I am and who I'm not without any capacity for care about those around me, with an expectation and an entitlement for the world to revolve around that, that destroys relationships. And maybe that's what you're seeing this at. It gives the opportunity for no growth. And look at this, it silences people.
Breaks connection.
Yes. Completely breaks completely.
Me telling you who I am and who I'm not without mercy makes other people prisoners around me. Kind of like Bob was saying, then there's no opportunity for negotiation, there's no opportunity for movement, there's no opportunity for growth, to be able to say, this is where I'm limited, these are the things I'm going to need. And Ridge knows this well too, in the parenting style, and even in my relationship with my husband, it's all up for negotiation.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
It's all for negotiation.
Yeah. When I say,
It
if that
can
gets...
represent it with vulnerability. I mean, if,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
mercy.
yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
it's always up for negotiation, the opportunity to say, is there any give there? Yeah. What do you need to see? Well, I need to see it like that. Yeah, I can work with that. We can work together. So we always have to be making sure that operating just straight in our truth, without the element of mercy next to it, doesn't give people the right to feel like they're free. It's a biggie. It is. It's very serious. It's put some words around it. When we're living a life where we don't have any limits, when we're incapable of being able to identify to people who we are and who we're not, what happens?
Lose value.
Lose value.
And you think you're helping, but sometimes you're really hindering or hurting.
And sometimes it can get wrapped up and the rationalization,
It's non-directional,
the rationalization of in the heart to help, in the heart to save, in the heart to save.
Probably don't feel worthy.
Yeah, I think this is a biggie. I think what it does to us as people when we haven't had the opportunity to watch, to have that be modeled. Limits are really important.
They help others grow too, don't you think?
Yeah, that's the right thing. Others grow.
I want you to think about it for a minute. I want to stay here just for a second. I want you to think inside of you, if you've had seasons in your life where you lacked the ability to have limits. And I want you to think about what that feels like. And maybe that's why I feel this piece so much, because my heart for the community is to launch vision and who are you created to be. And if you don't have limits, trying to walk out the life that God intended you to walk out is counterfeit.
It makes me think of that I'm valuing them more than myself, so I'm not valuing myself. Because we're taught that.
I was going to say that can really shift spiritually in what some of us were taught in martyrdom and those types of things. So that could get tricky. We're not going to do that. But if we recognize the idea that structure and identification and identity and accessing the power, think about it this way, accessing the power that God wants to distribute in your life. I know you hear this in boundary classes all the time. Jesus had limits. Like everybody needed to be healed. He stopped. He was very clear on what he was going to do and what he wasn't. Very clear. It was not a free-for-all. If you think about him, his life was not a free-for-all. He was real. Can't you kind of picture it? I get this picture of Christ being extremely strong. And the one on the cross. See, that's that beautiful sweet spot. The one on the cross, but I just picture him being so strong. I just feel like he had a lot of things that he was really clear on what he needed and what he wanted. And for you, leaders in the room, you influencers in the room, it's important to me to support you, to let you know that as a parent, as a manager, as a wife, as a husband, all your roles, limits should be a part of your life. And I rarely say that. I rarely direct you like that, but limits, the clarity on who you are and who you're not, and what you need life to look like is extremely important.
Down at the bottom, you have lack of identity and dignity. And I can really see that lack of dignity when you just let people just run all over you. And you're not even feeling good about yourself, you're not standing up for yourself. And you lack respect. And people, and you don't know who you are, like you said.
And did you hear those words Pat said, requiring respect and all that? If all of that is so important and you put vulnerability underneath it, and it's always a win. See, and hear this, I can require respect when I'm vulnerable. You catching? It's a new piece that I got this week. I want you to hear that for a minute. I can put requirements out there in my vulnerability. Without my vulnerability, I'm a dictator. With my vulnerability, I'm a connector.
Yes.
and raising my relationship to a higher standard, raising my company to a higher standard, you name it. You're vulnerable. Bring your vulnerability with your limits and your heart for people, you'll be unstoppable. I'm going to say that again. Bring your vulnerability next to your limits with a heart for people, you will be unstoppable. That's the sweet spot. Well, I broke it down. Because a lot of times, all you wonderful people like those sentences. So I went through and kind of broke this down into truth and mercy sentences. There's a boatload of them. We're going to go through them because I think that is very practical. We've kind of been talking about concepts, but hopefully this will feel really practical. Let's go through them in like 10, 15 minutes, and then we'll just panel it and we can talk a little bit. So I broke it down into parenting, relationships, and then in the workplace. This is all really important to me in the workplace too. You know, we spend a lot of time in the workplace, and I love implementing these heart culture strategies corporately because you can create teams that are unstoppable. If you're a vulnerable, high-level production person, I don't know how to say that right, but if you just want to kill it out there and you want to create a high-producing organizations, and you do that in vulnerability and you care about your team, you're unstoppable. All that, you just take those three things, sift them around and throw them around your operation. You take one of those out. Can you picture that? You take mercy out, now what do we got? You take your limits out, you're run all over. So let's do parenting. I even broke that down into young children and older children. So first I did the truth, then I did the mercy. So in the younger children, I did them a little stronger. I've been thinking a lot about this the last year, now that I have an 18 and 16-year-old. And as I look back and reflect on the good old days,
Wow.
I'm realizing that this model fits a little differently with younger children. So the truth for younger children is you will not scream. So this is the only element in heart culture that is directed towards you. The only. And in terms of older children, it always shifts back to me. And I'll explain that a little later. So in younger children, you will not scream. And the mercy says, I want to hear your words. Let's go outside and talk. You hear the middle there? The truth is you cannot say you hate me. Mercy is you can be really mad at me because I care all about that. So these are the limits. The truth says this is what you will and will not do. And I've shifted that. The truth is this rule stands in this home. These are our rules. And the mercy says, I understand it's going to take time to remember it. We can work together. Do you hear the strength in those limits?
Yes.
And do you hear the, whatever that is, you know, the heart and the value and the connection in the mercy?
It's vulnerability. Because I added that as a third thing. Truth, mercy, vulnerability.
That would have been really good, Pat. You guys tell me, where's the vulnerability? I hear it in the mercy.
Yeah.
I hear it in the mercy, yeah. I hear it in, you know, the mercy is we're working together. You know, I'm on your team. You can't scream. You cannot. And the mercy says, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you through this. Because these are the things that won't happen. I'm going to help you learn. Older children, you'll uphold the truth is you'll uphold our family name in the community. The mercy is, and when you fail. Do you hear those words? And when you fail, we are here to help. Do you see both of those sitting right next to each other? That's a powerful place to stand. Strong limits. You remember that box? Boom. This is what will happen in our home. This will be the atmosphere of our home. This is who we will be. And when you fail, I am right here. Things are going to change because you're not managing that well. That's the truth. Things are going to change. You're not managing this part of your life well. Like teenagers. And the mercy is, I can negotiate the outcome with you. Did you know you could do that? Did you know you could negotiate with your kids? That's mercy.
That's powerful too.
You're responsible to pay for your accident. The mercy is, I'm so sorry this happened. See, it's important that our kids know our hearts. It's okay to have natural consequences, but still have a heart for your kid. That's vulnerable. It's vulnerable to say, oh, you didn't manage that. You hear the heart in that? You weren't able to manage that well. And I'm so bummed there's going to be these consequences for that. That's real. I don't want my kids having consequences. It's the last thing I want. I want them to be free running around, having like the time of their life. The last thing I want is consequences. I really mean that. I want it to all be easy for my kids. I really do. I want it to all be easy. And when it's not, that breaks my heart. So it breaks my heart. It really does. And here's my limit. This is what will happen, and it breaks my heart. That's the sweet spot. That's truth and mercy. So in relationships,
They take more, I mean, like for the little bit older kids like ours, I mean, it just, you know, just got the car and thinking, oh my God, you're driving fast. Love you to death. Sure ticket. You know, I mean, you're paying for it, you know, kind of thing. We'll be there. We'll go to court with you. But then they start thinking, holy crap. You know, I mean, they just start taking more ownership. I mean, it's opened up a big door, you know, that they have that responsibility now, that we've given them that opportunity to think about it instead of making those decisions for them.
and when there's natural consequences, you have the opportunity to be compassionate.
Yeah.
If there's no natural consequences, then we're angry and overwhelmed and trying to convince. We don't have to do any of that because the the limits are right here. That's just real. Real limits, real structure, real natural consequences, but my heart is for you.
And less control.
Oh.
And less control. Yeah. Okay, in relationships. The truth is I need a break. The mercy is I'll be back soon. You're important to me. The truth is I'm changing. The mercy is I know you need time to catch up. The truth is I need more help. The mercy is maybe, I'm going to go through this one a little bit. The truth is I need help. I need more help. I can't do this by myself. It's too much. Whatever, that could be anything. It could be in the workplace. Maybe you have a position that you literally are feeling like I just can't keep up. The mercy says, it's okay if you can't meet that need. You following that? You imagine offering that to somebody? I need your help, Kristen. But we've had this conversation so many times that maybe it's okay if I release you from that. Maybe I need to figure that out for me. See, it's not even with the expectation. I own my own natural consequences too. I don't even put that on you. The mercy says, like, if that's not you, that's okay. I don't even really think about that. If that's not you, that's okay. You put that in any conflict. So many of our conflicts are if you could just say it this way or do it this way or think this way. But if you can't, that's okay. Imagine that's mercy, unhooking from the reality of that expectation. I won't be controlled. I just won't. The mercy says passionately, with their whole heart, I know it's gonna be hard for you to let go. What do you think about that for a minute? Think about a husband saying to his wife, I will not be controlled. And then he says to her, grabs her hand and says, it's gonna be hard for you to let go because I know it gets scary for you. That's magic. That's magic to learn how to have a limit. I won't be controlled. But I care about you, and I know it's going to be hard for you to untangle from me. You hear that new limit? Like, I can't do this anymore. I can't have you constantly managing me. Can you picture a husband saying that to a wife? Just constant? And then he says to her, but I see you, and I know that that's going to feel new. It's going to feel new that I'm not going to be able to participate in these conversations anymore.
Yeah, that's a key though, not to just dump the other stuff.
Whoa. We don't belong here together, do we? We do.
Do you see the opportunity for beautiful things to happen when we have all these limits and the things that have to happen? Some of us may be here tonight and there's something that just has to happen. It can be operated in a way that says this has to happen, but I'm going to throw time on it, and I'm going to throw mercy on it, but this has to happen.
I love the time.
I'm gonna throw time on it, means it doesn't have to happen now.
Yeah, I'm just going to eat dinner. Really, I really mean it. These things have to happen. You know, we all have seasons in our life too, like now that I'm 20, now that I'm 30, now that the kids are out, you name it, now. These things just have to happen in my life. I want you to participate with me in this. That's mercy. And it's going to take us some time to figure out how to do all that. Okay, in the workplace, let's do that really quick. The truth is I require better outcomes than what I've been seeing. The mercy is I am here to train. I am here for you. I want to get you where you need to be. But do you hear the strength of that administrator? These are not acceptable outcomes. That's a strong administrator. This cannot continue. And the mercy says, I got your back. I got your back. What do you need? How can I get you to where I need you to be? The truth is I'm unhappy with the overall results of your work. The mercy is we're going to work together to find a solution. The truth is maybe you've had a handful of conversations with an employee or with a team member. And maybe you've come to a point where you're recognizing this isn't working. The truth is, this may not be a match for you. The mercy is there any last thing I can do to help resolve this? See, sometimes even corporately, you might get to a point where something does need to change. I mean, you might have a limit that says, you know, I'm here, this isn't working. But the mercy can come in. I mean, we can lead people, so I'm going to talk corporate for just a quick second. We can lead our associates or our teams, or if you're in a directing role, you can, with time, remember we throw time on that, with time you can lead people towards their needed change. And sometimes we get to the point where we say, you know, I've had all these limits and they're not changing. So this place may not, you know, maybe this organization's not a match for you. Do you hear the different language there? It's a real partnership. Like we've had this conversation 4 times. This may not be a match for you. I'm willing to give it another try. I care about you. Is there one last thing we can try together? Do you see how we've been journeying now in the corporation? We've been journeying. And now I'm saying, is there one last thing we can do? We try the one last thing. So it's okay that it's not a match. It's not a match for me. It's obviously not a match for you. Do you hear the partnership there?
Push on the other hand.
Say that again, Pat.
I said, it sounds like a partnership unless you're on the other end.
Unless you're an employee.
Yeah, it sounds like I'm fixing to get fired.
Yeah,
You
that's true.
Okay,
But it's not a match for you.
And they still feel like it's partnership, even in that journey. And the last one's kind of similar. This issue you should have been fixed. Do you hear the strength in that letter? Maybe this portion of your job description isn't a match for you. And do you hear the heart in that? This portion of your job, it may not match you, and that's okay. Let's figure it out together. That's mercy. That's okay. No judgment, just black and white. I care about you. I want it to be a match for you, and it's not. So how can we work together to remedy that? What's it like to look at this concept in these different worlds? As a parent, as a spouse or a partner, as an employee?
Well, I think it's great. I've actually never thought of it in the employee. And I mean, what a benefit if you are, like I manage these people in my business, and what a benefit instead of just like, this person's not working. To be able to open a dialogue and see what the issues are.
Take shame out of it.
Yeah. So I never really looked at it, truth and mercy, in the workplace, more so in the relationships. The work is a relationship.
I've seen it be, it's gonna sound funny, but kind of fun.
Yeah,
You can be in conflict and change that conflict into a real wonderful corporate relationship that says, so this is failing, and that's okay. It's gotta be fixed. So what are our strategies? So we've had this conversation 3 times, so obviously it's not working, and that's okay. But something's gotta change. Do you hear the mercy in that? It's okay that we're not all perfect. That's okay. But let's figure out a way to get us all where we need to be. Yeah. Dignity gives license for non-production. So as you look over, let's kind of chat a little bit. As you look over just these concepts and throwing vulnerability in there and throwing time in there, where does it leave you? As I was working on this, the concept of vulnerability came because I think the word on that is when all else fails, go vulnerable. As I think that's what I got for this is, all these sentences, all this, these are things that we say heart culture is a whole language. It's like learning a new language. And I really think God was saying, this is all great, but this is learning how to live. Heart culture is a way to live. So we're just like spending time together, chatting, implementing some things. But I really feel like God was saying, when all else fails, go vulnerable. And that'll give us the opportunity to then sort out, what am I even feeling? What are my boundaries? Who am I? Who the heck? What day is it? I'm just kidding. But vulnerability can be a muscle that says, how we talk, Andrea and I talk a lot about pausing. I think vulnerability is the pause here that says, I'm not really sure what's happening here, but I want to offer you something and I want to offer me something. I want to
Because you're not gonna fix anything overnight anyway, so.
Yeah, we're really not going to fix anything anyway. What we're going to do, what we're going to do is we're going to stand next to people vulnerable and have the opportunity to sort out, like you said, the fog can clear in our vulnerability. I believe God will partner with us in that. So when we, all else fails, go vulnerable, opportunity to sort out, what am I needing here and what can I offer?